Hello, my friends. This is one of the most amazing verses in the whole Bible. I want to share it with you real quick right now. I'm telling you, this one is incredible. Look how that shadow goes across my face when I move my hand there. Look at that. It's like radiation hand. All right, here, I want you to catch this verse. Psalm 20. It's like 4 of the most powerful verses, and I promise you, you've probably never seen them like this. This is the Psalm of David. You know, so we're talking like, he was, reigning around 1010 BC. The Lord hear thee in the day of trouble. Love the King James. It sounds so majestic. The Lord hear you in the day of trouble. The name of the God of Jacob defend you. The first thing is, there's a promise. I'm going to show you how to get in on this thing. May the Lord hear you. Now, there's something about being heard in heaven that is unique. It's like having an access, and God hears. The second verse, the Lord send you help from the sanctuary and strengthen you out of Zion. What does that mean? If the Lord hears you in the day of trouble, notice when you need to be heard. In the day that you're in trouble, you cry out to God, and God sends you help. Now, what does it mean to send help from the sanctuary? Hebrews 1:14 says that angels are sent forth from Zion. Angels are sent forth from heaven. Angels are commanded and directed from the throne of God. Angels hearken unto the voice of his word. So the Lord hear you, verse 1. Verse 2, the Lord sends you angelic intervention out of Zion and strengthen you out of Zion. And then third, now this is so powerful, especially to so many of you who have, my group, my tribe, my company of like, the 300,000 or so that are watching this site. You guys are just, I know you. I know that you are the salt of the earth. You are the praying remnant. You are you're the revival, true revival people. And it says here, remember all your offerings and accept your burnt sacrifice. But God remembered. So what David is saying is, in the day of trouble, I cried out and God heard. He sent angelic intervention. The Lord remembered all of the offerings, all of that which I've sacrificed. Remember, it says here, burnt sacrifice, that which cost me something. This is so powerful. The reality that Christians are the only group of people on the planet who, I believe, hearing God, have the ability to respond to God and give, not in order to get salvation because the believer is already saved, but in order to obey the prompting of the Spirit. So what you've got is the call in the day of trouble, the angel sent. And then David says, the Lord remember the offerings. The Lord remember the burnt sacrifice. The Lord remember what you've done. And then the fourth one is, and grant you, and this is so powerful, grant you according to your own heart and fulfill all thy counsel. Grant you. This is a powerful verse. It says that God will grant you according to that which is in your heart and fulfill all that is within the counsel that is on the inside of you. And we will rejoice in thy salvation. In the name of our God, we will set up our banners. And then look at this next verse. The Lord fulfill all your petitions. If I put that together, in the day of trouble, you cry out to God. The Lord sends angelic assistance from his sanctuary. He remembers what you have done. He remembers your giving. A lot of people don't realize that God remembers your giving. And you don't always get the giving cycle when you think you get it, but guess when you get it? You get it when you need it. And when do you need it? In the day of trouble. And then God moves on your behalf and fulfills all your prayer, all your petitions, all that you've asked that is in alignment with the will of God. God moves in heaven and earth in order to release to you. And angels are dispatched to fulfill all your petition. Look at this, Psalm 20. These 5 verses are amazing. And why does God do it? Because the next verse says it, because the Lord saves his anointed. The Lord delivers his anointed. The Lord hears his anointed. And the Lord saves them with the strength of his own right hand. So these verses are to me, every time I run into them in the Bible, I think, I've never heard anybody actually talk about how to get your heart's desire, because I realize that so many people are are self-obsessed with what they want. But here is the key. Those that have offered the burnt sacrifice have given when it costs. Those that have offered the burnt sacrifice are the people that have obeyed at a price. And the verse that jumps up for me is that the Lord is not unmindful so as to forget your labor of love and how you've ministered unto his people. And every now and then when I wonder, well, is what I'm doing making a difference? And that verse comes back and is a great consolation that the Lord, it says in Hebrews, remembers what your labor of love is for the people that you've served. So these verses come together in the saving of his anointed. Now I've got a special request I want to make of you today, and I very seldom do this because it's almost out of the ordinary when I go in this direction. But I've lately noticed that with the result that we've had in the last election cycle and the torqued up, amplified bombardment that is coming against the president. I mean, I've got magazines around me. It's just like every media outlet is hammering. And then we're going to watch in January this new government coming in Congress. And as I'm looking at this, I'm saying we have got to be a praying group with greater authority. And I'm not going to trust anyone else to do the job that we've got to do. 70,000 people were the swing state election votes. Do you know that in the last election cycle? I believe we've got to stand in the gap for the president. But more than that, between now and 2020, I believe we have to see that 70,000 move to 140,000 and multiply to 1.4 million. We have got to mobilize the unmobilized portion of the body of Christ. I keep wondering if someone else is doing it or how they're doing it. Everybody's doing a little bit, but listen, I'm trusted with a certain amount of influence on media. And so what I'm going to do is more. I'm going to do more media than ever before. We're looking for a 2020 vision, and my vision is that the president is not going to have a razor-thin margin and a constant bludgeoning. I'm believing that we are going to push back against the gates of hell. I will build my church, and the gates of hell will not prevail against. So where are the gates of hell? They're the gates of influence. They're at the top of media. They're at the top of academia. They're at the top of politics. They're at the top of wealth creation. And I'm decreeing and I'm prophesying. This is the hour when God's zigzag, God's faithful remnant is going to emerge at the top of the mountain. Why? Because that's where the gates of hell are located. And Jesus said, I'm going to assemble my ecclesia where the gates of hell are located. Now, the Bible doesn't say you rule instead of your enemies. It makes a very interesting decree. You rule in the midst. That means we're going to have tares and wheat mingled together. Sheep and goat nations are in a conflict right now. But I don't believe it's God's will that America goes down in judgment. I don't think that Donald Trump was meant to be an interruption in a cycle of judgment. I think he was a window of grace and a door to go through. And the church has kind of flagged at it. I think preachers are afraid to come out boldly. I think that a lot of Christians in business don't want to lose their customers. I think that, it's where we are now is the fear of man is becoming a greater snare than the fear of the Lord. And as it was in the days of Jesus, so it is right now, where people are afraid to give their opinion for fear that they'll be put out of the synagogue, for fear that they'll be put out of the social circles and the privilege and the economic self-interest that they have. And I understand that. I understand that, it's like I was talking to a friend of mine, a new friend recently, and he said that I asked about his business and his political persuasions because if he wants to get involved with me, that could be a hot potato. It has its benefits too, but it has its drawbacks. And he said, well, our organization is politically agnostic. And I don't mind that. I don't think that you have to have your business necessarily. Unlike liberals who have to get involved with everything from the NFL to to a play on Broadway. I mean, they politicize everything. It's ad nauseum. No matter where they go, they turn into politics. I don't think you have to. You can be a business agnostic, but you use your platform, your wealth, and your influence, and your personal sphere of authority in order to advance righteousness and take a stand for what is true. Because a few bold people can make a difference. 2020 vision. I think we need to have clear eyesight, clear insight, and the church has got to recover its focus. And I'm convinced that you guys and me, we're going to do this thing. We're going to have a 2020 vision, and our vision is going to be clear. We're going to see righteousness shift the nation. We're going to see how God moves his people to be a force to push back on the darkness. May the Lord send us help in the day of our trouble at the United States. May the Lord send angels out of his sanctuary. May he remember yours and my burnt sacrifice. I'm thinking about the limo my friend Matt Cornelius rented for me, leased for me on the inauguration. That was a burnt sacrifice after Antifa got done with it. Grant us according to our heart, fulfill our counsel, and then fulfill our petition, because the Lord says is anointed. I believe the United States is anointed, blessed, and graced by God to be the standard of liberty in the earth. And what we're promoting right now is every perverse, bizarre thing, and it's time that we took this thing into a different degree of leverage in the heavens and in the earth. And I'm believing that God's going to do that. I need your help to do this. I'm going to need to really put all the resources I've got. I run a very efficient and a small operation, and it works great because I don't like debt. But I'm going to tell you something. We're going to have to go into the media market. And I'm wondering if the Christian broadcasters will even let me be on. I'm going to find out. I'm going to just go ahead and put the shows out there. We're going to be able to do the news the way the news needs to be done. We're going to tell the story the way the story needs to be done. And we're going to make the case known. I mean, we need to trumpet abroad, aloud, what we believe. And I believe there's millions of us waiting for courageous voices to rise up. So 2020 is the year. Your support today can help that. Your support can help us move forward. I'm going to be talking, hopefully within the next week, about a studio right here in Dallas where I could start to do the broadcasting. I don't mind doing this. This is fun. This is not going to be good enough for television, though. So I can't be doing this with my whiteboard in the background with my perfect. Look at my great graphics. Psalm 20, verse 1 through 4. We can do better than that. We have to do better than that. I need your help. So it's lancewallnau.com/2020. lancewallnau.com/2020. You guys know I hardly ever talk about the need for resources, but this is going to be the hour we need that. By the way, today, did you see in the news where there was a border patrolman that was killed? A border patrolman was killed right on the border, and I believe it was with a rock. And after the obnoxious, it's like 20 minutes bombardment from every single news station about tear gas, tear gas, tear gas. You ever hear the talking points? They all got the same talking points. Well, now the new outrage of the day is that while people think the tear gas was too much, there was a border patrolman that was killed. And killed because of lawlessness. And it's the kind of lawlessness that Americans are going to have to stand up and resist. We're going to have to do it in the spirit, and we're going to have to organize in the natural. And if we organize, we mobilize, I'm telling you, 2020, from now to 2020, we're on this thing. And we're not backing down, and we're not waiting for somebody else to do the job. We're going to step into the gap and see how the Lord raises up people at the top of every one of those mountains. We're going to see the church actually arise, because the church Jesus promised was going to be able to contend at the battle at the gates. And that's where we're going. We're going to the gates. I will build my ecclesia, my church. Doesn't have to be many. 2, 3, or 4 can make a massive difference. We're going to have to mobilize them. Does that make sense? All right, I thank you so much for your agreement. I thank you so much for your friendship. I thank you so much for your encouragement. By the way, you realize we're almost at like 300,000 today. I think today we're going to tip 300,000. That's like basically organic following. I don't have any scientific promotions of these broadcasts. It's just you guys. So would you share this? Would you share this with others? And together we are going to push this thing through. I'm looking forward to having a bus that we're going to be able to do a tour in 2020 from place to place, going across the country. As the rallies move, we'll move. And we're going to mobilize intercessors. We're going to mobilize pastors. We're going to mobilize believers, because America is a sheep nation, not a goat nation. We've just allowed the atmosphere to be dominated by voices that are not God's voice. And that's got to change. It can't just be Christian broadcasting talking to Christians. It's got to be Christians communicating to Christians who are amplifying a message in the language that Babylon speaks. We have to learn the language of the Babylonians and learn how to communicate. And it's coming. It's coming now in the name of Jesus. I'll be talking to you soon. Thank you. lancewallnau.com/2020. Hey, you know what? I'm Lance Wallnau, and I want to tell you something. I think that occasionally thumbs up and thumbs down really means something. I wasn't aware that there's a thumbs down option. I thought that was like diminishing to self-esteem on Facebook. But evidently, YouTube is being bold. So you can like me or not like me. But I'd prefer that you liked me and subscribed. So why don't you do that now, and we'll talk some more in the future.